And that is what we're going to explore as a big part of today. And before we get there, and for those who have not joined the earlier session, can we just give you a quick introduction of what is coaching? Mahesh, can we play the video, please?
So while Mahesh is getting the video, I must say, Kanan, I always feel proud to be ICF when I watch this.
All of us.
Coaching essentially is a process that will help you to get to where you want to be in a much shorter time and to achieve the success that you want to achieve in life without doing it on your own.
Coaching is a guided process where somebody helps you through the power of questions and active listening come to your own conclusion. You have to get your own answers. And these are the best answers because you are the expert for yourself. So I think coaching is the leadership style of the future.
A lot of things I love about coaching, especially I love the moment when my coachee gets an aha moment or realize that, oh, I need to change, or even I want to change, and then start this passion. I'm witnessing that exact moment.
I love helping people. I love helping people work through things that have kept them stuck, have kept them playing small, have kept them from living to their fullest potential. And now I have the opportunity to help other people who are like me, you know, well-educated, trained professionals who've invested a lot in a career. And I can help them to put all the pieces together and get in touch with what it is they really want to do and help them through the transition so that they can live the rest of their life really fulfilled.
Thank you. Thank you, Mahesh. And yeah, that was a brilliant video on what coaching can do. And you would have seen a live demonstration of what this whole process of coaching is in the earlier session. Yeah. And in case if you have any questions about what the process is, please get in touch with us. We will publish all our email IDs on the chat box. You can approach any of the chapters and then get to know more about what is coaching, or approach any one of us and we would be happy to really talk you through that. And with that, this session's focus is a lot about, you know, the process is fine, organization is fine, but how it is really brought into life. And what has really been the change that some of us have experienced by going through a process called coaching, and by coaching, by a coach really being with you in your journey. And it's going to be in the format of a panel discussion. And Abhi, can we have Gopal?
Gopal is there. Gopal, can you come on your video? Yes.
Yeah. So Gopal is our Chennai chapter president and a very senior leader from human resources background, worked across multiple continents. And very uniquely, he is one of the first MCC coaches in Chennai. And he's also a visiting faculty in ISB and a strategy consultant. And Gopal will be moderating this discussion. May I invite Aparna, Kavita, Uma, and Isabel on screen as well.
Hello, this is Aparna.
Yeah, hi Aparna. Yeah, hi, Isabel. Yeah.
Hi,
So,
I'm Kavita.
yeah, hi, Kavita. Excellent. So, let me just give you a quick introduction of who these wonderful women are, and then we'll get on to the session. Yeah, Kavita works as a senior manager with a large non-profit organization called Nalanda Foundation. Yeah. She has 26 years of entrepreneurial experience, and she had businesses in a variety of industries, and she is a mother of 28-year-old filmmaker and an 18-year-old budding culinary chef. Welcome, Kavita, onto this panel. And Aparna, yeah, Aparna, Instagram. Aparna has a background in academics, corporate world, and consulting. She's a gold medalist both at undergraduate and postgraduate levels, and she majored in linguistics. So she has done her stint of teaching in Bangalore's Jyoti Nivas College for over 11 years, and then she moved into corporate world and spent the next decade. And her last role that she had was Vice President of HR at AXA Business Services. Welcome. And Isabel, we have you. Isabel is a very, very unique personality, and she does leadership. She is a founder of founder and a leadership coach, and she does a lot of work with horses and leadership. That's been her passion. And prior to this, she's a businesswoman. And prior to that, she had her own stint of corporate career. And the most recent one has been the head of physical logistics at BMW.
Anand, sorry for the interruption. I think your voice is breaking a little bit. You just want to readjust it?
Is it okay now?
Yeah, it feels better. Yeah, it feels better.
Excellent. And Uma, do we have you?
Yes,
Uma
I'm here,
Maheshwari.
Mr. Karan. Yeah.
Hi, Uma. And Uma is an engineering graduate from Anna University and has completed her executive program in human resources from IIM Calcutta. She has 15 years of experience across various sectors like IT, ITES, and education and healthcare. She moved on to the HR domain when she started the job in Kaveri Hospital, and she is currently heading innovations at the Kaveri Hospital. Welcome all of you, and Gopal, I hand it over to you.
Thanks, Kanan. And as you said earlier, a few minutes earlier, four wonderful ladies. I had the pleasure of speaking to each one of them earlier today. It's so nice to put faces to those voices. Welcome you all once again. The floor belongs to you, so I'll quickly get out of the way. I'll just repeat my request that we have individuals sharing first, and then we get into a group discussion mode. And would like you to talk about vignettes from your life and how has the power of coaching benefited you. Shall we start with you, Isabel, then go on to Kavita, then to Aparna, and to Uma. Over to you, Isabel.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I thought, I give you a little surprise because you all know that we are all about horses. So we have actually brought the horses and the ponies inside. So this one is Deepu, and Deepu has a friend, and his friend is called Kiki. That's this one, who is not coming, and they are all very much interested in also saying hi to the audience. So they are very keen on exploring new things, and they know whenever they are in the meeting room, they actually So for them, it's like they are really treated very well in every meeting.
Isabel, we're not able to hear you.
Sorry. I hope you can hear me better now. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So the horses basically, they love to come inside because you get the treats. I hope you got them some treats also today that you can see them.
We're losing you again, Isabel. You were great till you turned your camera to the horses.
Okay. So maybe the camera doesn't like the horses. They will come in right and left on my side. And I start telling you, okay, it says not clear. Okay, I keep talking and please let me know if it's coming to you. I hope so. Good. So I tell you a little bit about the story where I'm coming from. India is my home, but I'm originally coming from Austria. I came to India in 2007 and I lived all over the country and I have traveled to places where probably most of you have never been to. I have been to Raipur, I have been to Chhattisgarh, I have been to coal mines and to iron ore mines, and I have been to ports like in Kakinada, also in Gujarat. So I have seen a lot of India and I love the country and I love the culture. I have worked with several European companies, and there I want to tell you a little bit about the story, what I feel, it is as a woman working for an engineering company or for a technical company, because I think the horses, they are actually waiting for the dinner, so I need to let them go. So please say bye to the horses. That is Deepu on this side. So he's very restless, and Pixie is also saying bye. Good. So basically, my experience as a woman working for a manufacturing company is that it's always difficult if somebody, gets your CV, or somebody who doesn't know you and they get to know that you are a woman. Then they basically build up all kinds of stereotypes, what you might be or how you might be. And my feeling is that as soon as you can actually have a chance to present yourself and build the trust with the people, then they will understand that you bring maybe certain qualities to the table which other people don't. And my experience is just in the beginning, the first step being a woman is sometimes quite tough, and you have to convince the people that you're definitely able to do the job, but then it actually gets easier. And the most explanations why I would be suited for this job, always I got them from my German and my Austrian counterparts, and not from the people in India. The people in India were actually always very welcoming and very open to new ideas, open to changes. Doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man or a transgender or from whichever background you come. So I really appreciate this culture in India. I think it's one of the most open cultures in the world, as per my experience, and it's really an honor to stay here, and I'm very proud to live in India. Yeah, so I wanted to tell you a little bit about my coaching experience. I'm a professional horse rider, so I competed in horse riding, and horse riding is also an Olympic sport. So unfortunately, I'm not of that level of going to an Olympic competition, but I have competed in several competitions across India as well as in Europe. And when you do sports, I think all of you who have done any sports know that without a coach, you cannot do anything. And I think this is ingrained in my mind since I'm a child. You always need to have a coach on your side when you want to get better. Yes, you can just, go for a ride and enjoy it with a horse, or you ride your bike, or you might be a painter or some creative person. But if you want to get better at something, you need a coach. So that was always clear for me. And then working with horses, I think it's something which a horse always reflects your behavior. So a horse in itself is a coach, and I'm running a leadership company working with horses. So it's really interesting to see that the horses actually always reflect your behavior. So if you are doing something wrong, you will never get the output. Of course, you always need to think, why has this gone wrong? And how can I actually change it? And why is the horse not following me or not following my instruction? Maybe I have missed out, that communication was not clear, or I was not energetic enough, or my focus was not there. So horses for me are actually half a coach. So especially when it comes to leadership skills, it's very interesting to work with horses. And I have also taken some coaching classes and guidance through many years from professional coaches, not horses. And those people helped me, especially in building up my young startup company. I'm working with my company now since about 1.5 years. And I think the most interesting thing what happened to me, what I always experience, is that there are so many thoughts in your mind, and you might have one specific problem where you think, that might be easy to solve. And then you sit down with a coach for maybe 45 minutes or 1 hour. And after that, it's so clear in your mind that it becomes so obvious what is the solution for this. And I really enjoy that process, that everything becomes more clear. For me, it was, for example, last year, or like just a year back, my aim was to build up a company in Austria and just do some very small jobs. And then I had a coaching class. And after this coaching class, I decided, why do I only want to have a small company? Why don't I build up a proper and a big company in Austria? And yeah, we got some clients for that as well. And yeah, it's just beautiful what all new opportunities open when you go through that process. Thank you very much. I hope that was not too long.
Thanks a lot for your share, Isabel. I hope I'm audible. And thanks again for Deepu, and I forget Deepu's companion's name. Sorry about that.
Pixie.
Pixie. Okay. So while they enjoy their dinner, may I request Kavita to share, please? Kavita, could you come on to start your video and audio, please?
It's not starting. The video is not starting.
The audio is audible. Kindly go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Like in the introduction that, about me, which was given, so I think the basics are covered over there. So I won't get in over there. I'll just get in to certain factors of my life where, counseling has been very much a part of it. So I've all my life practically had, counseling in some form or the other in my life too, because it's been quite a traumatic life. I've had a very turbulent life. Lost my father when I was very young. I was about 8. And I grew up in a joint family, a typical Punjabi joint family. So with all the narrow-mindedness which comes with it. So all those stereotypical, patriarchal, things that are fed into us. I was very much fed in all that. So I grew up with that, with very low self-esteem. And then I got married. I was armed with a degree in mathematics and computer sciences way back then, which really, was supposed to add a lot of value to myself. One of the only decisions which I ever took in my life, but then I never took it forward because, the traditional way of doing it is she's finished her graduation, now get her married. And I got married to a gentleman who was 13 years my senior, and there was no mental connect, an arranged marriage. So, that came along with its own limitations. He had an alcohol problem. He started having financial problems because of that. So again, a very turbulent life. So I came in with certain baggages because of the way I was brought in. Then the circumstances created further baggage for me, and the kind of an upbringing that we get, we don't think we have an alternative. So, you just go with what has been given to you, and you play it the best way that you can. So I had my elder daughter. My girls have a 10-year gap between them. And at every phase of life, when I felt that I wasn't able to handle things, I would do some sessions with the counselors, and I would, they would fortify me. Spirituality has been a very big support system for me. So, I've always had these pillars, and I've kind of managed on. And then my younger one, when she was born about 18 years back. So that's when I was at that point of my life where, I was getting kind of stronger. I realized I had capacities inside me, which I didn't see in a lot of people. So that started making me feel that somewhere I must be special. And the gentleman, to whom I was married, had his limitation. So meaning that's not going anywhere. So there's nothing there on which I can depend. So I started taking on more responsibilities on myself and started building a future for the children and myself. And right throughout, like I said, spirituality, counseling, everything was something which was very close to me. And I reached a point about 5 years back where I'd, reached the limits, and I decided to, wind up my business, which was not doing very well. I was in telecom VAS at that point of time. I'd had it for 15 years. And so then that's when I kind of broke ties with the business, with the husband, and, with the children. I kind of moved out. And now I work with an NGO because I said it's time I gave back to society. And that's when I came across coaching. Coaching came into my life. It came in through the NGO that I worked for. And this was a totally different experience from counseling for me. There were very fine nuances in it, in the way, the counseling versus the coaching, how it differed. She was my life coach, Deepa. She was like more of a partner for me. She was making me think more than, just creating that safe space where I could kind of vent myself out. That was something which counseling gave me. As a life coach, she made me think, and, I was able to identify areas where, probably I had to reevaluate the way I had been wired. I had a lot of baggage, like I said earlier. So, she started helping me out in kind of rewiring myself. So I'm very thankful for that. And that's the reason why I wanted to come and speak out. I know most Indian women, all of us are in not very different conditions as to what I was. And we don't know if we have a way out, but then there is very much a way out. And, you know, all these tools which are available, I call them tools of spirituality, meditation, or counseling, and a life coach. These are things that we can really, you know, use to pull ourselves out of whatever it is that we've pulled ourselves into. Yeah, thank you so much. Over to you, Gopal.
Sorry about that. There seems to be a technology lag. Kavita, thank you again so much for sharing your life experiences. I was a bit taken aback in the afternoon when we spoke, and your honesty, your sincerity, and your experiences shine through. So thanks on behalf of the attendees. More to Aparna, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Gopalji. Kavita, hats off to you. It's not every day that you come across such honesty. The important thing is you're here as a winner. So my life is the exact opposite of Kavita, very secure, very safe home. And all people wanted was for me to, you know, study well, get married, settle down, as they say. Quite the quintessential Indian household. And so I was told by my folks after I got married, and I got married really young, is that go look for a teaching job. And why do you have a teaching job? Because there is really very little work that you bring home. Okay, this is before internet and online classes and everything, okay? So go and teach in a girls' college, if you please. So that's what I did for 10 years. And I realized that there was this big world out there. So when I got into the corporate world, it was like something had fallen on my head, okay, and opened out a whole new world to possibilities, to different things. So I saw that, and it was addictive, because in college, when you taught somebody, you didn't see them succeed right there. They went out into the real world and then succeeded. Whereas in the corporate world, when you trained people or helped them, you could see the results immediately, and that's quite heady. So that's where I was in the next 10 years, helping people find their potential and realize their potential. Long before I even knew what coaching was, I had a super boss. And every time I went up to him with an issue, he would say, yeah, so what do you want to do? And in my mind, of course, I was cursing him to say, hey, you get paid so much more. Why don't you just tell me what needs to be done? I'm new to this business. But of course, the next time I learned pretty quickly that if you go to him with problems, you need to go with solutions as well. And before you knew it, I was actually making decisions that I never thought possible. So that's really the quintessential bit. And this happened long before I knew it was called coaching, by the way. So people would come to me with their issues and problems, probably because I listened to them. And then a lot of people told me, why don't you become a coach? It would be very helpful. So I was like this agony aunt of people, my age group, who would come to me and talk about their issues. So what I realized was that it's about rapport, it's about trust. All of us have something or the other that we need to talk to someone else. And therefore, I took that from them and actually went and got certified as a coach. So I'm going to tell you a little bit, both as my experience as somebody who coached somebody else and my experience as somebody who got coached. So I'll tell you both. So one of the earliest people I had to coach was a lady who was managing a particular department. She was a doctor and she was managing one department. And suddenly, over several of her male colleagues, she got promoted to head the whole hospital. Everybody was in a state of shock. And the person who was the most shocked was that lady herself. And her big question was, do I have it in me? And her boss sensed her, uneasiness and said, probably you'll benefit from having an external coach. Now, so here I was called upon, somebody who had no idea how to run hospitals. And that's the best part of coaching, right? Because you don't have to give solutions. So I would ask her the dumbest of questions. And I think that helped her to think about things from a different perspective. So the first 3 months, I just spent time building rapport with her because she was very sure her boss had planted me to spy on how she was working. Okay, so these are some of the challenges that coaches face. But in 3 months, I was able to build a rapport with her. She realized I was out there to help her. And it was, success was visible to her because she made small little changes in her approach. So people usually ask, was it a behavioral coaching? Was it a performance coaching? So for a first-time coach, it was an overwhelming thing because it was all rolled into one. And the root cause was that person not having faith in her own abilities. So I think sometimes as women, we have that problem. I mean, I had read about people saying greatness is thrust upon you. This was clearly a case where the lady was not ready. She was very happy, but also extremely anxious and scared about, will I do a good job? What I've noticed, and subsequently when I work with women leaders, one of the things, I think Kavita also talked about it, we beat ourselves up unnecessarily. Okay, we think we have to be better than everybody else. If there were a male who was promoted like that, I guess that person may have said, and we're speculating here, I have nothing against males. Okay, I have lots of good male friends and relatives, but they may have said, look, I'm going to take 3 months and learn the job, and then I'll worry about succeeding. But this lady felt because she had been promoted unexpectedly, she had to prove herself from the word go. So my advice would be, hold back. It's okay. Okay, just do whatever best you can. And one of the things that I did, luckily, when I switched careers, so here was somebody who had no blueprint for a, I can't say as a 12-year-old, 10-year-old, I dreamt and said, this is what I want to be. Nothing like that, yeah? Everywhere that I went and I took up a new line, it was a lot of unlearning and relearning, courtesy somebody who was my mentor, my coach. I had no shame in asking for help because I was new to the industry. And then they were more than willing to help me. And now, of course, we have people who are professionally available. So for me, the most challenging thing was when my coaching assignment with this doctor got over, she said, can I continue to talk to you, please? It may not be something that you get paid for, but so the most beautiful thing that I have experienced in coaching is that you make a lot of friends. So you build this trust, you build this rapport, and some of that learning rubs off on you. So there's no way as a coach you do something and you don't benefit from it. So that's really something that I wanted to share with you. One of the most difficult things when I became a coach was not to jump in and offer solutions. I think we're so used to it. And in India, whether it's politics or anything else, you ask somebody, there's plenty of free advice available, right? So we're brought up like that. I have, so I'm like that too. Very often you'll jump in and give the answer. The biggest learning for me as a coach was don't judge, just sit back, listen, and help that person discover their own solutions. Like we saw beautifully expressed in the video, one is that aha moment that comes up. The other thing is when they realize, hey, this is not something I thought possible. So they push out their horizons and actually move forward. That is beautiful. I'm flipping it around. Okay, so I've helped a lot of people through coaching. There was this time when I felt very stuck and I was completely confused. I had no shame, luckily, in reaching out. And I found a wonderful coach who helped me to see things from a completely different perspective. You're going to meet her. I have no problems in saying this. You're going to meet Lata. So she helped me see things from a completely different perspective. As a trained coach, I would go up to the door when I was looking inwards and trying to find solutions, but stop right there, possibly because I was scared of what I might find beyond that. But Lata made that safe space for me and allowed me to move further. She also helped me to see my blind spots. We tend to think that we're better than somebody else, and that may or may not be true. She helped me to see something in myself that I would have never thought possible. And the best part is that, she said, just made me realize that coaching is not a destination. It's a journey, and you don't have to stop. When you reach one goalpost, you can move your goalpost further and go out and tap your potential. So I wanted to close with a saying. You heard about my literature background, so I can't not do this. It was Ralph Waldo Emerson who said, "What lies behind us and before us are tiny matters when compared to what lies within us." So I really think the strength is within us, and coaches help us to discover that. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Well, thank you, Aparna.
Thank you.
My God, that was powerful. That was very well articulated. You said we are very free with advice, but whatever you said, especially the one about asking the dumbest questions to be a successful coach, I think that's a big learning for us. Thanks again. And Uma, the last but not the least, can we have you share your vignettes, please?
Thank you, Mr. Gopalji. Hi, this is Uma here, and thank you for having me here as part of the panel. And I would like to thank Ms. Aparna, Kavita, and Isabel for sharing their experiences with all of us. It was really great to hear you. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to give you a bit of background about my journey and my experience with coaching. I've been a receiver of coaching, and I would like to really share how transformative it has been for me. So after my engineering degree, I always wanted to do a master's in engineering. And while I was preparing, my mother was always anxious. She had it in the back of her mind, how am I going to get my daughter married? If she does a master's degree, then I have to get a guy who has completed master's or more than that. That's going to be difficult for me. So they were constantly discouraging me for the sake that, you know, they can't get their daughter married off. So at that point of time, I had to give in to my parents' wishes. But the inquisitiveness in me did not want to give it up. I thought I could do it myself. If I possibly get some kind of scholarship, then they will not discourage me. So the first step that I took was get into research. I thought, you know, having a research experience will be a good ticket to get scholarship. So I worked with a professor in Indian Institute of Science and did research for almost a year and a half. But then the master's degree did not happen, but my step into the IT industry happened at that point of time, and I joined Microsoft. And post that, I had a stint of career growth in the IT industry in some of the major bigwigs like Microsoft, Hewlett-Packard, and Nokia Siemens Network. After a period of time, I got married and I had to move to Dubai because that's where my husband was working. And after we moved there is when I joined Nokia Siemens Network. And I was working there for almost a year and a half. And I performed pretty well. And I was an independent performer. In all these stint in my IT industry, I had independent projects and I was able to handle it. And I was a high performer. And I was due for a promotion is when I was pregnant with my first child. So my career took a back seat after my pregnancy, and I thought I can resume my career after that, but I had my second child. It was a back-to-back pregnancy. So I had my second child after a 1-year gap. So after 2 to 3 years of having the responsibility to raise the children, I could not get back into resume my work again. Always wanted to be a career woman. I always wanted to be a performer. But at this point of time, I had to stay back at home, take care of my 2 little children, and being abroad did not have a great support system. So I thought my career was finished. And every time I saw a lady, pick her bag up and wear a corporate business suit and going off to work, my heart would yearn. And I really thought that my career was over. And I always wanted to get back, and I was looking for options. So after a few years, when my children got to school and they were in a stage where they could do, basic care and take care of themselves, I thought that, I should probably explore. And I did try to get back into IT industry, but it was not working. So what I did was I thought it was time for me to shift my career from IT to a different field. And I chose HR because while I was working in IT, I always found the HR folks very optimistic. very well dressed, and almost, everybody in the office would be, looking at them and appreciating them. So I thought, why not? I like to talk to people, and maybe HR is a good field for me. So I approached my children's school to get a stint in their HR department. I told them that I could intern and do any work with them just to gain the experience. And simultaneously, I worked towards building my degree, upskilling myself. So I also enrolled in a program in IIM Calcutta. And at that point of time, when all this was happening, my husband got a promotion, and he had to take up an assignment that kept him away from home for most period of the year. And I was enjoying my internship in my children's school in Dubai. And that got me thinking that, this is the time that I should make some decision about my career. I'm enjoying this. Maybe I have to take a big leap. And the first thing that I wanted to set right was get my backup and support system in place. And for that, I felt that I need to move to India, because my husband was not available there, and managing everything alone in Dubai was not a great option. So it was just out of the blue. I decided to move my life, move my children out of the school in a matter of 2 weeks. And in the year 2017, I just made the move. I got my children here, sorted out their admissions. And meanwhile, I was also working on my degree. And after I completed my degree, I looked for a job, and I got an assignment with Kaveri Hospital. So my confidence levels were back, and I thought, okay, this is happening. And I thought I got it all. What happened was I was given the Learning and Development Department to be taken care of. And it was new to me, but I started my career there. And what was happening was my sessions that I was delivering to the employees seemed to have an impact on them. And people were listening to me, people were looking up to me. But still, I did not feel authentic. I kind of felt that I'm not doing the right thing because I have not done it before. And I was also taking a bit of an assignment in the other aspects of HR. And having a background in IT industry, I kept dabbling with technology, bringing technology-related solution into HR. And after 2 years of my stint in HR department is when my director called me, and he told me that, why don't you look into starting a department of innovations, because you've brought in quite a lot of new ideas and new developments into the department. So I would like to expand your focus across the organization. And whatever Aparna told a few minutes back about her coaching session, I was going through the exactly the same feelings. I was extremely anxious. I wanted to grab the opportunity, but then I had this constant question of, whether am I the right person? Can I do it? If I don't do it, what happens? If I don't deliver, what happens? And I've never managed a huge team. So do I need a team, and how am I going to handle it? So these were the questions at the back of my mind, but I did not want to let go of the opportunity. And that's when my director told me, why don't you look into coaching? And he gave me 2 assignments. The first assignment was to look for, bring coaching program into the organization. And also he asked me to find a coach for myself. So that's when I heard about coaching and how coaching has been a big game changer in my director's career, and I was very curious about it. So in the process of searching for coaching, bringing coaching into my organization is when I met amazing coaches from ICF Chennai chapter, Mr. Suresh himself. So I met him the first time going and seeking, I didn't know how to choose coaches. So I didn't know how to, arrange and, make the coaches meet up with the coaches. I didn't know how to take the next step. So that's when he invited me over, and he spoke with me. And the first time I spoke to him, it was actually transformative in my life, because he kept asking me, why do you think you are not capable of doing it? Why do you think, what are the top reasons that is like, making you anxious? So the questions that he asked me, he told me to go back home and write it down. And after I wrote it down, I understood that I have a lot of cobwebs in my mind and I didn't know which one to focus. And every point of my time, both in my career and at home, I had multiple things going on at the same time, and I didn't know which one to focus so that I could feel authentic, by doing something. I was giving it all at home. I was giving it all at work, but I was not feeling authentic because I didn't know which one to focus first. So after that session, I felt that coaching can truly, bring some changes in me and bring some changes to the coaches identified in the organization. And we had a great journey thereafter. So that's all from me.
Thanks, Uma. And thank you so much again, Isabel, Kavita, and Aparna. We've had 4 wonderfully articulated shares. You have both enthralled and enriched us. And now I'm sure that our participants are eager to interact with the panelists. So I request Kannan to put forward the collated questions one by one, please. And we can decide as a panel, either the panelists can volunteer or we can assign the question to the panelist as you wish. Go ahead, Kannan.
Thank you. So first question comes from Maya. Don't you think as women, our career always has to take a back seat and it is so depressing? How does one deal with it?
May I request Uma to take that?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Gopalji. This was the most intense feeling that I had, and several times my anger was directed at all men that I met. Why does it have to be the woman that has to take the brunt of losing her career over the familial responsibilities? But that's the way of life, and I learned to manage it by accepting it and always looking at how I can find myself relevant in that situation. How can I be relevant, and how can I make my life better? So because it was there at the back of my mind, I could find the opportunities. So I think we should not look at it in a depressing way, and we should not restrict ourselves to one particular field, because most part of my life, what happened was I was looking at IT, because that's where I come from. I was looking at career options in IT. When I actually stopped looking at IT and moved my focus to a different sector, that's when the change happened. So I think we have to start thinking multidimensional, and your thought process in unidimensional direction is what could be restrictive. So that's my take on it.
Thanks, Uma. Kannan, next question, please.
Okay, so next one is, what are the challenges of coaching women in cross-cultural environments? That's from Rajesh.
Isabel, may I direct that to you, if you don't mind?
Sure, thank you. Hi, Rajeshwari. So I think it's just that when you come from different cultures, you actually get many, many more ideas. I think you need to be very much aware to see even more different perspectives as a coach. So don't try to bring it into one direction, but be even more open to it and understand that there might be completely different outcomes or different solutions or different backgrounds. And I think that applies to coaching as general. You never know where the person has come from or what experience that person has made up till when you come to a very critical situation. So I think it's it's very important to be open to out of the box thinking.
Okay, what's the next question out of the box?
Yeah, so this is from Sunaina. What are few real powerful questions that you have asked in your coaching career that have helped a coachee to transform or get the aha moment? Give us some specific examples.
Could you rephrase that or shorten it, please?
Yeah, so Naina wants to know what are some of the questions that as coaches we ask which are powerful, which is creating aha moments.
Aha. So I think that one should go to Aparna with her advice of asking the dumbest questions and being a good coach.
Yes, and I am also having my notepad ready, so I'm noting this down as well.
I think Sunena, that's a very clever question, and it's a very true one. Unfortunately, the answer is not glamorous or big. Very often, it's a simple why that helps. I think you've asked for a specific example. So it's usually why and what are you worried about, kind of a thing. So there is this gentleman that I coached who was a CEO of the organization, and his issue was that he could not even make eye contact or talk to people. Okay. So you and I take that for granted, right? But that was something that so his organization wanted to catapult him to a bigger level. But because of his lack of people skills, I'm sorry, I should rephrase that. I don't think anybody lacks it. He was holding himself back. So my question with him constantly was why? So he would not even make eye contact with me, Sunena. It was quite difficult. For a while, I believed it was because I was a woman coach that he did not make eye contact, until I realized that he doesn't make eye contact with his team. And there was nothing medically wrong. Yeah. So the thing was that he had a small task of finishing his one-on-one with his reporting and stopping to ask, hey, what did you do last weekend? Believe it or not, he found it exceedingly difficult. I had to role play with him, Sunena, and say, write out the question and say, can you please ask me? I had to role play the team member. So it's not even about what questions. The questions are pretty simple. They are our usual WH questions to say, what do you think will happen? You're painting scenarios for them. How do you want to do it? What is your next step? The questions are pretty simple. I think it's a question really of where do you place them, and wait very patiently for the other person to answer. That's the more important thing. But thank you for that question. I think it's a beautiful question.
That was an equally beautiful answer. Thanks, Aparna. Kannan, what else do we have?
We have a question from Radhika. Mainly the question is about what loophole do you feel coaching fills in the mental void of women who face so much of responsibilities?
Responsibilities. Kavita, may I request you to take that?
Yeah, see, as a typical Indian woman, there are not too many, questions that we ask ourselves about the situations that we are in. If, life has kind of created certain limitations for us, we do not, we've been taught not to question them. So if I have a maths degree and I, am still, only limited to my home and, whatever is the space that my marriage lets me have, I cannot question that. So, and coaching actually made me question those basics with which I grew up. So I thought that was one very major tool that I had with me when I was being coached. So, and this is the same tool now, that when I talk to somebody or I'm coaching somebody or I'm, kind of counseling somebody, I kind of use this. I make them think for themselves. What is it that, you question yourself? Because all the limitations are actually inside you. We feel that it is the circumstances which are doing it, but then it's actually up to us to break free from that. So I hope this has answered your question.
Thanks, Kavita. What else do we have, Kannan? I know we have only about 4 minutes left.
Yeah, so
for this part.
Okay, so next one is to Isabel. Binita is asking that Isabel commented about challenge of getting clients and getting that break. What really helped her?
Thanks for the question, Benita. Yeah, I think it's always doesn't matter if it's you trying to get clients or you trying to succeed in interview, or you try to really connect with somebody you want to learn from. I think it's one is persistence. I think we are all very busy, and to just build, unless you can really build the trust and the relationship with somebody, it's not going to work. So I think it's really important to stay in contact with that person you want to make contact with. Should it be your client or maybe your future employer? So stay in contact and figure out what these people actually need. So if you can be the solution to the problem, then somebody would look for you. Yeah, doesn't matter if it's as a coach or as an employee. I think it's very important to present yourself as a solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Kannan, do we have any other questions?
We have a lot more questions, Gopal. You want to go through the questions, or would you like to continue the discussion?
Maybe you select one, and I guess then we'll have to excuse ourselves from the audience and go on to the next part.
Yeah, sure. So there is one interesting question that came up, which is, is from Saranya. Is coaching the right thing to be suggested for women who are facing social stigma due to divorce or not having children, or for single widow mother facing social trauma, or will counseling be the more right thing at that situation? How do you distinguish between which is right?
Wow. Who wants to take that one? Maybe you rephrase it, Kannan. I think that'll help.
Yeah, so the question is all about, is coaching the right solution for people in trauma or facing social stigma like divorce or not having children? Or is it counseling the right choice?
Okay. Any volunteers?
I could give it a shot if that's okay. I think
Absolutely.
coaching is for everybody actually, because the way I see coaching, it's a non-judgmental sounding board. So just the fact that someone's listening to you without jumping to conclusions is going to be helpful. Maybe just coaching may or may not be enough for this person. I think one needs to dig in a little deeper. So certainly coaching could be a beginning, and I'm sure as coaches, we direct people to get counseling if that's going to be the better option. But I think it's a good starting point. I don't know if that answers your question, Saranya, because without knowing complete details, it may not be easy. But for anybody, having that initial conversation with a coach may not be such a bad thing. Right now, actually during COVID, if I could take 30 seconds more, some of us are offering a free conversation for a particular number, and people just call in. Listening to the kind of questions that come in from there and the kind of people that call in, it looks like many people benefit, no matter what it is. We may not be able to resolve their issues. Just being listened to at a time that is traumatic, whether it's because of COVID or lockdown or anything else, I think is still helpful because it allows that person to process what they want to do next. So that would be my answer.
I think the answer was loud and clear, Parna. Thank you. I mean, it may be a social stigma situation or any situation. Talking, sharing, getting listened to always does help. So we didn't answer her question directly to her specific situation, but I think that's good enough of a start of an answer. I got a heads up from Vijay. So Kannan's hosting this session and Vijay is now warning us about what time of the hour we are on. So if it's okay with the participants, I, on your behalf and on behalf of ICF Chennai, sincerely want to thank these 4 wonderful women. And we did promise in our emailer that there'll be 4 remarkable stories and 4 wonderful shares. I personally think we got that. Thank you again so much. Kannan, over to you, and then over to Vijay for the video and the PPT, and then opening it up to the audience for their sharing. So our time was 6:30 to 7:30 for this part. I think we did pretty well on that. Thank you again.
Thank you for having us.
Gopal, if I can just context the warning with an invitation, would love to just have a closing remark from all of you all, including yourself, Gopal.
Sure. Thanks for the generosity of a few extra minutes, if I may say so. Closing remarks. Let's see. Maybe you go in reverse order now. Uma.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Gopalji. Okay, so I would like to thank the ICF chapter for having us and giving us this opportunity to present our journey with coaching. And on a closing note, I would just like to share 2 important aspects that has helped me in moving on from a certain position to a better performer in my current career. The first thing was the revelation that one doesn't have to know everything to be the better performer. So you can always seek. And all you have to do is just knock at the right person's door and you get it. So don't beat yourself if you don't know something. All you have to do is just go and approach somebody and ask, and you'll be very surprised that they will help you. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is always prioritize. So if you're having some confusion, please write it down and move the first 3 important items and focus on that. So focus helps. And I learned this from my coaching sessions. And I would like to thank the amazing coaches that have helped me become a better performer. And this is my closing note for you all. Thank you.
Great, Uma. Aparna, would you like to go next?
Yes, I'd like to say that this has been a revelation. Each of us is so different, and yet there's such a string of similarity. And I'm sure a lot of people in the audience are able to see that connect, because we're not that different. And it's beautiful because all of us are unique in some way. We are special, so this helps us to tap into our inner potential. Thank you so much for having me. What has helped me definitely is this whole belief, like Uma beautifully said, you don't have to know the answer. Ask and thou shall be given has been the mantra. Thank you.
Thanks, Aparna. Kavita, over to you.
Firstly, thanks to all of you for having me in over here to share my journey with you. And my life's learning and what I learned from the coaching is that these are tools which are available. So, the fortitude of the person is in how soon we can bounce back from, any travails of our life, because life is going to have its challenges. And so it's all up to the fortitude that we have in bouncing back. So coaching is one such tool, which is very, it's a very strong tool. And so we should take the, help of such tools and build ourselves. So this is what I'd like to share with everyone. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kavita. Over to you, Isabel.
Thank you. So I think what I want to leave you with is that in this time, in this critical time, it's a time where I have never gotten so many ideas. I think it's a wonderful time if you see it from a new perspective, and there's so much opportunity coming up. And online coaching, which was always seen a little bit strange, is now getting the new normal. And I think it's fascinating what new opportunities come up. So I would all encourage you to, take one step forward, take a coaching class, or start a new business, or get onto a new idea or project. Thank you very much.
So Isabel, I have a facetious question for you. Who are easier to coach, horses or men?
Horses or men? They are both actually pretty simple.
And she told us the horses were her coaches.
Yeah. I think there are no difficult things. I think there was a question about what are the most difficult clients or something like that. I think there are no difficult clients.
No,
it's just challenges.
It's okay, Isabel. You're off the hook. Thank you for the diplomatic answer. My only comment is, it's been a pleasure. It's been a privilege listening to you, learning from you. And I'm sure I speak on behalf of much of our audience. Thank you so much again. And Vijay, over to you.
Thank you, Gopal. Thank you, lovely ladies. So let me tell you this, we handpicked you for this session, right? And probably the only, sort of thing we had in our mind, apart from being real coaching clients who've gone through the coaching experience, is also, if I may use the term, real women in some senses. And I think that just stood out so well today in all your authenticity, your grace, and a certain resilience in all of you. And I think that's the message that I take away from this session. And as Aparna beautifully said, all of you very different, probably meeting each other for the first time, but it was like such a beautiful orchestra today. And so well held together by Gopal. Thank you, Gopal. In his very, very characteristic style, he allowed you all to really come out and share. That was wonderful. So on that note, we're moving on to the last part of our, last but not the least. And in some ways, I think the audience has been fantastic. So I think there are about 20 odd unanswered questions. And I do feel a little guilty, but you know what? There is this other space that's just waiting for you. We're going to have a live interactive panel that normally does not take place in any public webinars. But we want to do that because we want to keep some of these questions going. But just before we jump into it, we'll take a short, not commercial, but I think a refreshing break with a little 2 to 3 minute video, again, about saying that, yeah, we listen to very Indian women, and Isabel, I count you as Indian, talking about real ground realities. But you know what? Here's this inspirational video from ICF, which again showcases some amazing women who talk about how coaching has made a difference. So sit back and enjoy this video while our panel gets ready to take on all other questions. And that session is titled, All You Wanted to Know About Coaching, all things coaching, right? Till the clock sort of strikes 7:58, we have time. Mahesh, may I request you to share that small video, please?
I had a feeling, maybe I should do this. Maybe I should call her, and I took her up on that offer, not knowing I was headed for a life-altering experience.
I had someone in front of me who was actually there talking me through the process of what do we need to do to equip you for tomorrow.
Sohair gave me this space to speak up and to talk. She kept digging deeper and deeper until I got all the answers for the questions within me.
Every single week with a coach, there's something that you can learn. Feeling that you have someone that's there in your corner, rooting for you, has certainly helped me stay engaged as a leader and stay committed to what I'm doing.
And so for me, that was about me being myself, but it was also the idea that others would get to be themselves around me.
Coaching for me has been transformative. It's changed the way that I lead. It's changed the way that I manage. It would be much harder without that support and without that resource.
I believe that I have the right tools to help me with any struggles I could face in the future. There's no obstacle that I can't overcome.
I was my own superhero. I didn't have to wait for anyone. The superhero was within me.
I know that I would not be in the place I am today if I hadn't have had the gift, that opportunity that the organization invested in me to be ready for today.
I would recommend coaching to anybody who is at a point in their career where they're either unhappy, frustrated. Like if you've tried other things and you're like, I can't change this, I can't shift this, get some help. You know, that's what coaches are for.
Thank you. Thanks for that video. I'm feeling quite refreshed for the last bit. Sure, I think that's what coaches are for. Reach out. May I now invite onto the panel, Abhi, if you could just, so Gopal's going to continue on the panel, Kanan's with us. I'm also going to have Lata, Siddhi, yeah, and Vasanti. All these are coaches with different experiences, but you know, passionate about just one thing, coaching. Is everybody here on the panel? Okay. Lata, if you're on, please get onto the panel. Can Lata be brought onto the panel?
I'm
She
here.
is there, Vijay.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, hi, hi. Okay. All right, fantastic. So you now can see a few, you know, familiar faces from ICF who are here to just make this a freewheeling conversation. So the way this is going to work, you raise your hand and, you know, our admin will unmute you and you can actually ask your question live, but keep it short, just in the interest of time so we can cover a lot of questions. And panelists, let's not get into too many details. Let's have those, you know, 20 questions kind of answers if possible. Yeah, so let it roll.
Sampada, you can talk.
Go for it,
Yeah.
Sampada.
Hi. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I was interested in knowing that with so many cross-cultural and so many gender and various issues, career-related issues and challenges that get spoken of, and somewhere you as a coach, you're wearing a veil between you and the client. However, there are some projections and transferences that happen as part of coaching. So over a period of time, one needs to cleanse oneself. And what are those ways in which you cleanse yourself or, deal with these projections and transferences? How do you deal with that?
Great question, Sampada. I think you've touched a very important point of self-care. I assume it's the same thing we're talking about. To me, self-care is about a lot of reflective practice and really taking care of mind, body, timeouts, and yeah, constantly looking inwards, I think. Anyone else?
If I may answer, I'm on a constant lookout there. All those processes, probably I try to meet my shadows. So it is, as a coach also, I do this. So on a personal level also, I do this. So the shadow is that 3D perspective that is hidden from you. And every time that the comments that you make or you listen to or the feedbacks that you get, these are the indications, or the slips and the humor and everything that you use are indications. Sometimes I just become very aware of all these things. And as Vijay said, in reflective practice, go ahead and meet those shadows that are inside me and figure out who they are. Accepting them makes me a much better person.
Next question, please.
Mukul, you're on. You can ask your question.
Yeah, I just need to unmute my microphone. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Mukul. I have unmuted you.
Yeah. So I'm working in education sector, and I've just seen all the wonderful women talking about it, and see, this is a very powerful tool for helping the industry in which all the leadership is there with the women only. So what I feel is that in education sector, 70% of the workforce is led by women, and we being in the training for leadership coaches, leadership trainings in the schools and colleges. So we are looking forward for how we can get some support from coaching fraternity, and how the coaching could be a solution in this. Because I am seeing that in education, there is a very less intervention of coaching. If you can have something specially designed for education sector.
Lata, would you want to answer that?
Absolutely. Thanks, Mukund. Coaching in the education sector specifically, I have done it as I am in the education sector. So depending on the kind of teachers or professors or where they are doing it, we can definitely help in curriculum planning, classroom management, and the stress that goes out in actually maintaining that classroom, which I think is the most important part of, and also in how we can engage the current Gen Z learners, and how we have a blended learning, and not just the strategies, but there is a lot of stress that happens because we have to reinvent teaching practices very frequently, and this is a very stressful practice for educators. So coaching helps us in definitely figuring out most of these answers.
So biggest challenge what I feel is to establish the need of coaching in education.
Definitely, yes. Specifically in India.
Yeah. So what we can do about establishing the need is maybe I am specific to it.
If we can ensure college directors, principals of schools, and the heads actually appreciate and see the need, I have done the coaching for colleges and schools. So let me tell you, once they see the how beautiful it is for their teachers to work out the same 32 hours in a week and still be able to do their assessments, curriculum planning, and lesson plans perfectly, it becomes, it definitely brings in that importance.
So if we can record some of the success stories, and we can send it to our groups where we are sending it, might be a good option. So if you can support us, Lataji, in recording some of the testimonies and recording some of the experiences of coaching in education specifically. So maybe it will help in establishing the need. I'm working in North India, so I'm specific about North India for 200 schools. Maybe we can take it to those schools and see that how it's going to establish the need.
I think that should be possible, Mukund. Vijay, how do you suggest that happens?
Yeah, so I would also, we have, a charter chapter in Delhi. And I think that'll be a great place for you to connect. I can share coordinates with you, and there'll be a slide at the end of this. Probably the best people for you to reach out to because you're in Delhi. I mean, you're in North India, sorry. Can we move to the next question?
Yes, Thomas, you can ask a question.
Am I audible?
You need to be louder, Thomas.
Okay, am I audible now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to know, like, what is your experience or something coming across a very difficult client? Have you come across a very difficult client, you know, and if you could just describe what kind of an experience that is?
Can I ask Siddhi to answer that? Difficult clients.
Yeah, sure. So Thomas, I think this was something that was mentioned earlier also, if I remember, Isabel, or I think mentioned that. So there are no difficult clients. I think it depends on what's coming up and what stage the client is at. I must say one thing though, in my experience, a lot depends on what the client wants to do. So if the client wants to move forward, if there's a very clear need in the client to move forward, then it happens faster. And at times what happens is, even if the need is not present, if there is, as in a very clear need is not present, if there is some sort of reflection happening and the coach is able to work with the client at that point to unlock some of those blocks, and that aha moment happens, and then it kind of rapidly just evolves from there. So that's an experience that I've had.
If I may add, thank you, Siddhi. Siddhi, very, very beautifully said. I think there are no difficult clients. I completely agree. There are only clients who are coachable and who are not coachable. We just need to, as coaches, we need to look for that.
And some difficult coaches, Kannan?
Plenty.
Okay, let's move to the next question.
Yes, Sunaina, you have one more question to ask?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity. I just have a quick question that as a new coach, one of the first challenges that one faces is to attract the right number of clients. And although today a part of this got already answered for me, because you feel very proud to be part of the coaching fraternity and this industry, but it is not it's not yet acceptable in India, and many people don't even know about it. The basic questions we get asked is difference between coaching and counseling. So any good practices that you can share with us for a new coach to establish oneself, and establish in this career?
Vasanthi, would you want to take that?
Sure, I will. So I've been in my coaching journey for not a very long period. So that's kind of something that I'm personally struggling with too. The way I have been handling it for the most part is, making my social presence felt. That's one side of it. The other side of it is reaching out to people, and trying to see where I can, make a difference with the skill sets that I bring to the table. Not just my coaching skill sets, how can I value add in terms of my domain experience? For example, the question on using coaching in the education sector. While Lata was answering, I wanted to add there that as much as the teachers needed coaching, so do the students of India. So I think that is something that is working for me, and I would suggest that you could try something like that. Leveraging your own domain in some way coupled with your coaching experience, so that you can identify the areas where coaching will be most effective.
Can I add on to that, please? I'm very tempted, didn't want to. And again, I'm not sort of wearing an ICF hat here, but I think credentialing from an organization which really upholds standards and enables that you go through a certain amount of rigor before you not just, do or, but, you become a coach, I think is so important. And early on in my career, my greatest challenge used to be able to, I used to call this the elevator pitch test. In less than a minute, can you explain to anybody who you meet in the elevator about what coaching is? And I think with time I've gotten better. So I still keep testing myself on that. But the point is, I think something like credentialing or, allows you to really develop and learn about the subject so that you can talk about it to anyone, any place.
I'll also add one short line to that, Vijay. And I think being a great coach and being a great businessman are two different skill sets. Yeah. So you need to build both in order to be successful.
Or a businesswoman, Kanan.
Business.
Kannan, I so agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so anybody else who has any other questions, or do we pick some questions also? There are some unanswered questions in the Q&A. Okay, the moment I say this, there are some hands.
So Abhi, maybe just one or two more because I'm mindful of the time and we are at 7:58.
Okay, yeah. Jyotsna, you can ask your question now. Jyotsna? Yes.
Hi.
Okay, so I'm not. Yeah, Jyotsna, can you be louder?
Yeah, sure. Is it better?
Sure. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Go on.
First and foremost, thank you so much. It is such a wonderful session today. The first one at 4:30 and now this one. It was wonderful to see so many other women coaches, much more experience to talk about their own journey, etc. So thank you so much for putting it together. My question was exactly this, what Kannan just said, that being a coach and being a business person are two different skills and we have to build both. And I really wanted to ask some of the experienced coaches here, all of you, that how do you build that another bond of being business person while one is trying to expand the practice?
Gopal, and this question is for you for sure. And then Siddhi, yes.
Yeah, just the last part again, please, Jyotsna. You said business and how to be a better.
Yeah, how to develop, how to develop this business while establishing your coaching practice. How should, is that clear? You want me to repeat that?
It's clear. See, the marketing side of it and the credentialing side of it has already been answered in an earlier responses to earlier questions. I'll just say one thing. I mean, just work hard at being a better coach. And earlier, a question was asked, how do I get the right number of clients? That's a business question. I would say get the right clients rather than the right number of clients. Build rapport, derive satisfaction from how you're making a difference to others. Word of mouth will spread. As your word of mouth spreads, the business will come by itself. So I would say just focus on being a better and better and a more popular coach. And the business side should take care of itself. That's what I have to say.
Siddhi, you had to say something on it?
Yeah, so just two things. I think Ujjwal has already responded to that. My first response was get a coach. The second thing I want to say is the coaching itself is built on, for me, it's built on one fundamental principle, and that is that every human being has unlimited potential. And sometimes a lot of these kind of questions could possibly come from a preconceived notion or idea that you might have or anybody might have about themselves, that I don't come from a business family, I'm not good at business, marketing is not my strength. You know, those are ways in which we limit ourselves. And so I would say that, you know, when you have a coach, when you get a coach, you can work through those limitations and anything is possible. Absolutely. And I agree with Gopal that, you know, just working on being a coach, because what's going to come to you is going to come to you. Just working on being a coach is the most important thing. Yeah.
Siddhi, I'm just going to add to it that as coaches, we also get coached within each of us, right? So, I mean, that's an important point for the audience here. We as coaches do peer coaching. We get coached on our own businesses. So we go with that as our rule. So one last question from Harpreet. Can you talk now?
Yeah, hi, I'm Harshpreet. I wanted to have some insight on how does coaching work on people suffering from depression, and if you could put some light on how coaching is going to help. Are these people depression patients coachable or not, and how is coaching going to help in mental health and self-doubt, especially for women? Self-doubt is something which is which is something to be catered to. So is coaching helpable there?
Can I also just pitch into that?
Yeah, go for it, Abhi.
Okay, so see, as a coach, I have done work with a lot of people who've gone into depression earlier. But the only thing is, when they are able to come back with an intent of I want to change things, then it works really beautifully. Because when you look at people who go into depression, most of the times they're not aware. And the second thing is, they do not know that, you know, they're slipping into that aspect at all. So their intent of I want to change doesn't really stay there. But the moment they are able to get that awareness is there, coaching is a brilliant way to look forward. And if we find at any stage during a coaching session, we want them to be referred to a counselor or some other space, we do that as well. Anybody else who want to add to it? Yes.
I would also like to add that the last 4 speakers who came in, they all were testimonies that self-doubt was the first one thing that you know, coaching solved. As all of them as women, in some way or the other, self-doubt had been you know, resolved in coaching. So we have had testimonies on that. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, so
Okay,
all hands down, right? Yeah, great video.
Yeah, yeah. So we didn't keep up our time. Apologies about that, but I do hope that those who stayed on till the end really did so because you enjoyed this conversation. I probably am also aware that there were a lot of questions that went unanswered. I'm going to be sharing the email IDs of all our chapters you can reach out to. And you know, you can definitely send it to one of us and we will answer them for you. With that, I think this lovely, engaging session and comes to a close. I first have to acknowledge the audience, which I think made this session what it was. Absolutely interactive with fantastic and insightful questions that made it a pleasure for, I think I can talk on behalf of all the panelists, the panel discussion, and then us coaches who got in, that we had a very enjoyable time. There's a last poll though. This will really help us to improve whatever we do for our community in the times to come. Abhi, could I just have that poll come up? Nobody is voting. Could we just have your votes on it? Humble request. It will just take you like a few seconds, but this is super, super important and useful for us. Upasana, can you see the poll? I can see it here, and already about 60% votes have come in. Thanks, Raghunath, for your vote. Thank you. Okay, I am going to close voting in about 5 seconds. Is that fair? Thank you, Hemani. Thank you, Amit. Thank you, Sunena. Thank you, everyone. All right, so end polling and share results. Okay, fantastic and pretty good. That's about 95%. Coaching could be useful. Yeah, resounding answers on career. So those of you who are stuck in your career or just want to have a conversation, reach out to us. ICF coaches also offer pro bono coaching for you to experience coaching. In fact, tomorrow we have something fantastic called International Coaching Day. For the very first time, our coaches are going to go pledge an hour of their coaching to the community. So we have, I think, about 75 odd people who are going to come and experience coaching, and truly excited about that. And would you like to experience a coaching conversation? Absolutely, 64%. 11%, yes, I think so. Okay, there is 21% who not at the moment, but you're absolutely right. You must have a coaching conversation when you feel ready. On that note, you know, I will be failing in my duty as a host with Kannan if, you know, we don't bring up on screen the fantastic, you know, brains and hands behind the show, which made this possible from ICF Chennai chapter. You have, you know, on your screen, Abhirambika, who, you know, fantastically controlled the entire, you know, flow of this event so well. She was ably supported by Mahesh and Rajesh. Could you please, you know, come up and open your videos, please, Mahesh and Rajesh. We certainly want to see you. Maybe you can just spotlight them, Abhi, because interestingly, and this is what I'm saying, the power of coaching is so collaborative and the cause is so much bigger than individuals. Mahesh and Rajesh are not even part of the chapter. We've met them like 48 hours ago. And I'm seeing them on screen for the first time. But they've just jumped in and so generously helped us. Like the way every one of our panelists, the moment we reached out to them, immediately said, yes, I'm game, I'm gonna do this. Amazing. And then we have the most able PMC, you know, Chandra from our chapter, who's raising his hand, who I think fantastically controlled the whole Q&A, made it manageable, and everyone else who you actually see on the panel. So I would love it if everybody could just open out your video for a minute. We'll just get a quick snapshot in gallery view just to record this lovely day and lovely opportunity. Once again, on behalf of ICW India team, I express my sincere gratitude and, you know, this infectious energy that is leaving me wanting for more. So there are more sessions through the week. Don't miss any of them. Okay, everybody say smile and cheese and bye-bye. And I'm stopping recording.